Welcome back to my project. My 8x22 tri-tune on barrels. 8x12 cabin. I'm erecting on top of it. Today I'm doing fill-in work, sanding, prepping to lay the canvas. But I don't think I'm gonna be able to because of the weather coming in. All this rain and high humidity is killing me. I did manage to 45 my corners like I spoke about. I'm doing the fill-in work. Fill in, got to come back and sand. I've got to finish my roof line in the front. The rear is pretty much finished. I may 45 this outside, both sides. I'm not sure yet. And I've got to complete the front. Finish trimming the roof. Add my front capping, which I haven't done because my tarp's been screwed on here for 2 weeks. You know, it's lovely weather. I did make my relief cuts to keep the plywood from touching the rail of the boat, because I'm worried about water piling up here. This plywood's not waterproof. Once I put the canvas, the poor man's fiberglass on it, it's going to be tucked in here. I'm going to come back with a bead of silicone, and I'm going to add a treated baseboard all the way around. And that's going to be silicone as well, because that's going to be an area that's going to see a lot of splash and water. I did fix my corners for my doors. I did seal off all the cracks, because when I do the spray foam, any crack, that foam's going to come out. It's a mess. I do have a buckling issue from humidity. This board is curved. Can't really see it in the camera. Maybe I'll put something straight across it. See the curve, the buckle? So what's going to wind up happening, I'm going to add a strip similar to this across. Screw from the outside to get rid of this buckle. I'll have 2 buckles, I believe. It's really not a big deal. It bothers me that it's there. If I can do something about it, I will. Front, same thing as the rear. I got over a 4.25 inch step above the deck for any splashing water not to go into the cabin. Once I seal everything, I'm gonna do the same thing as the sides. I'm gonna roll my canvas, poor man's fiberglass, under the lip, tuck it in the best I can, backfill it with silicone, and come back with a treated board all the way across, probably the height of the door seal. Good 4 inch treated board all the way around. Filling the corners, waiting for this to dry. Temperature has been affecting me. Can't use filler below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. If the substrate is below 50, it won't cure. So that's also been getting me at night. It's been in the 40s. It hangs around the 50s all day. Besides that, I'm doing good on progress. I do have to trim on my windows. Make sure every one of my windows fits in here. I have to leave room. My canvas is gonna wrap all the way around. There's less chance of water penetration. The weight, the cabin. I get a lot of negative comments on Facebook, which I don't really care. I mean, comments are comments. People have their own opinions. People have never seen this done like this before, and they tell me I should have used metal, steel tubing, or aluminum tubing, or aluminum sheeting. And there's so many opinions of what I should have done and shouldn't have done. Look, I chose my building material carefully. These are 1.5 by 2.5 mobile home trailer studs. There were 2 types of this wood to buy. One was a harder wood, which was heavier, at 4 to 5 pounds a piece per 8 foot. I picked these up. They average about 2 pounds a piece per 8 foot, and they're cut down to 6 foot 3 1/4 is the actual height. So all these, I have about 36 of them on this build. They're 2 pounds each. These sheets of plywood are 22 to 25 pounds was average. I weighed 4 of them, and that was my average weight. Even though online it says the weight was 28 to 32 pounds. I got 22 to 25 pounds. I have 15 sheets of that on this project. And so 4x8 weighing 25 pounds. Let's just say 25 pounds, go up my higher number. 15 sheets. One sheet of 1/16 aluminum, 4x8, is 32 pounds. My local steel supply can only get in 10-foot sheets, which comes out to about 45 pounds a sheet. So the plywood is lighter than the aluminum. Aluminum framing. I had a few choices on aluminum framing to go with, but overall, this 2x4 provided the same weight as aluminum framing would have. And someone else commented the benefit of metal: if it gets wet, it's not going to soak water. You know, if my metal studs or wood studs get wet, I have a bigger problem to be concerned about than weight. You know, that means I didn't do my job properly. It's not sealed. So that's just an invalid argument, saying that the benefit of metal is not going to soak water. If anything in here soaks water, there's a bigger issue. There's a much bigger issue to worry about than the weight of it. You know, because then if this soaks water, it's rot. It's all gonna be ruined. So that's why I'm taking the steps to waterproof this with poor man's fiberglass. There are plenty of campers built 40 years ago that are still not rotten today. They're built out of wood coated in canvas, wood glue, and paint, and they're still alive. In fact, I think in the 1920s and 30s, airplanes were built with the same method. I mean, I haven't checked the history on it, but I'm pretty sure we sent those airplanes into wars. And they survived wars with just canvas, cotton, glue, and paint. So yeah, that's why I chose my building material. One is more affordable. I priced out to do this complete cabin in aluminum. That's not paint or graphics, just the raw materials. It was about $3,500 to build an 8x12 aluminum building on here. Now, that's an insane amount of money for a budget project. The whole point of building it on barrels was budget, to show you what can be done on limited budget, and you can have something nice. I can't spend almost four grand on a cabin. This entire project, I've got a little over $4,000 invested, doing everything myself. Everything. It's a lot of hours, but you are not going to pay $4,000 for a houseboat of this size that is usable. I mean, any $4,000 houseboat this size is completely rotted, needs 100% renovation. This is all brand new for $4,000. Now, yes, my motor is used. That's only $1,000 right there. That's $1,000 of the budget right there, and I think $500 was for the trailer. So I got $1,500 that's not lumber and barrels on this build cost. I mean, anywhere you go, people have their own opinions, and you're entitled to your opinion. That's fine. I get most of the comments are telling me I better wear a life jacket. This thing's gonna flip over. It's too heavy. They see one picture. Oh, it's too heavy. How do you know what this weighs? You know, you're basing that off of one picture, and I mean, it is what it is. People are gonna do that everywhere. Any forum, any group, any chat discussion. That's what people do. You know, if I thought I was wasting my time, because believe me, my time is valuable. My money is valuable. I'm not rich. This is all paid for by me. I've done a lot of hard work to get the money to build this. and I'm gonna do a lot more. This is getting completed. It's gonna be nice. There are boats similar size with bigger cabins that are heavier, and they're just fine. You know, so I'm not gonna have any issues with this one. Before the cabin, I had a 7-inch draft on 18 barrels. Each barrel can support 225 pounds of weight at halfway submerged. And I have 18 of them. So if you do the math, that's about 4,000 pounds of weight 18 barrels can support. My hull itself is about 12 to 1,500 pounds. And then plus the weight of the motor and me, you have to deduct that out to 4,000. I can still hold 2,200 pounds of weight on top of this thing to only get down to halfway of the barrel's draft. These are 23.5 inch diameter, which is another thing someone comment that I don't even have big pontoons. There's no way it's going to hold it. A pontoon boat, standard average pontoon boats are 19 inch diameter pontoons. The bigger ones, they range from 24 to 25 inch diameter pontoons. So I already have more buoyancy than a standard 19 inch pontoon boat because of the fact that I'm 23.5 inch diameter and then I'm tri-tuned. So I have just as much buoyancy as a 20-foot tri-tuned big pontoon boat. I mean, those boats hold 12 to 15 people easily. So the people with my weight concerns and I'm not building it right and I didn't do no research, you didn't do research. If you don't like the way it's built, that's fine. I mean, I'm still gonna enjoy this. It's not gonna be as bad as you some of you guys are thinking. I mean, this is a nice project. Not just because I'm doing it is the reason I'm saying that. If I seen this build on YouTube, I'd be very happy. I want to see it done. Can't wait to see it in the water. This is budget, and it's very nice for a budget. It's only going to get nicer. And if it turns out I'm wrong, and this is too heavy, it doesn't float, not usable, this building's getting used. I will pull the building off of here, and I will put it on something suitable. I mean, I say it's cheap, but to me this is a lot of money. And I'm coming back with closed cell spray foam. That would be $1,000 right there to wrap the walls, ceiling with spray foam. That's $1,000 out of my pocket. That's a big investment. So this will get used, whether I drag it on my 5 acres in the woods and use this as a nice camp or big deer stand. It's going to get used. Even if I have to buy a 8-foot by 20-foot deck trailer and put this on top of it and use it as a camper, that's fine. That's what I'm going to do. It's going to get used. But I don't think it's going to come to that. It's going to work out just fine. I'm going to have a lot of enjoyment for a nice low price. Because really, there's not a boat this size you can buy for $4,000, even without a cabin, that is going to handle the weight this thing handles. I do have another boat. It's a 19 by 8 Carolina skiff from the 80s. It's real heavy. Probably weighs a ton. I've got aluminum frames on it, skimmers. I believe I got some 12-foot tall aluminum skimmers on it. And I know when people hear aluminum, they think it's light. It's not light. It's not. It's real heavy. It's got a lot of wind resistance. And we take that boat all the time in the lake with 2-foot chop, 20-mile-an-hour winds. We're out there with it. And the boat does just perfectly fine. It's safe. I know wind is going to play an important factor on controlling this thing. This is like a sail. It's a lot of wind resistance. Any boat with a cabin has the same problem. You just have to pick and choose your days wisely when to go out. I mean, you would be an idiot to go out in 20-mile-an-hour winds with this boat, or pretty much any boat with a cabin. Heavier boats handle wind better because of the fact that it's a lot of weight. I won't have a lot of weight. Altogether, when this is built, I'm probably going to be about 1.5 tons. And this little poor 9.8 is probably not going to be enough motor. But I'll address that when I get to it. So anyway, back to my original video where I stand. I'm waiting for the filler to dry. Come do my sanding. Got to finish off this front, add a 2x4 here, cap it. And then I wanted to start doing the canvas on the rear. But I don't believe I'm having enough time today to do that. We have a lot of rain coming tomorrow and humidity. With the canvas poor man's fiberglass, I need to do the rear first, then the walls, then the front. That way all my joints overlap facing the rear, to help with the water penetration. And then the roof is going to be last. The roof has already been filled. I need to go up there and sand it. It really wasn't necessary to fill all the screw holes. It's just when I wrap the canvas, you're going to see every screw hole, every imperfection. So it's just an effort to make it a little more appealing than seeing all the screw holes. I've never done poor man's fiberglass. Been watching videos on it for years. I always want to try it on a project. Initially, when I planned this cabin, I was going to go with some, I can't think of the name. It's like some honeycomb sheets of plastic that's used in fiberglass construction. You put 3 coats of fiberglass and mat on it, and it comes out to about 30 pounds a sheet. That was going to be my initial method, but the price for fiberglass these days, 3 years ago, was $90 for 5 gallons of resin. Today it's $109 for 5 gallons of resin. I do have 15 gallons in my shop. I do have a couple of them honeycomb sheets. Those honeycomb sheets are 4x8. They're about $65 a piece, and I would have needed 15 to 16 sheets. So my determining factor to not go that route was price. It would have been a nice, solid, all fiberglass structure. I would have had to put some wood. I would have had to put some studs, but I could have used aluminum to where it would have been no wood on the cabin. But really, what's the point? My whole structure is wood. So it's not like I'm eliminating wood. Everything below is treated. If you see my videos, it's all 2x6 treated lumber. I do have some 2x8s, some 2x4s. Everything on this gray paint on down is treated. This wood is fir. It's called a Rocco. It's a fir exterior plywood. The laminations are laid up with an exterior wood glue. It's supposed to have great waterproof values. And I had this boat in the water for six weeks on the water, and we had a lot of rain, humidity, and nothing buckled or peeled. But I did paint both sides. The bottom side of this Rocco 1/2-inch plywood is painted as well. But so far, I don't have any water intrusion. Nothing bubbling, nothing. It's doing excellent. I wish it wasn't so heavy. I would have sheeted my sides with this. I tried to buy it in 1/4 inch. All 3 of my local lumber yards cannot get this plywood in 1/4. They had something similar, but it wasn't the same. So I figure if I'm not gonna have a waterproof plywood, I went with the regular pine sheeting. I believe it was $22 per sheet. Where the next step up, this is a 11/32. It's in between 1/4 and 3/8. I want to go with 1/4 inch on the walls and 3/8 on this roof. I want it going with 11/32 because of the weight. The 1/4 inch sanded plywood they had available was $42 a sheet, and it weighed the same amount as this, but it was a prettier plywood. But with that said, it didn't matter how pretty it wasn't waterproof, and neither is this. So that's why I chose this plywood over a prettier 1/4 inch sanded. I mean, this plywood does have a lot of flaws, but I'm fine with it. This is going to be sprayed with closed cell foam. You're never going to see any of this. And if you're not familiar with closed cell foam, it really glues the structure together and adds so much strength. As a side job, I work in the spray foam industry. And every building that was sprayed before Hurricane Ida survived Hurricane Ida. Barely had any damage at all, whether it was a wood building or a metal building. The strength it adds. In fact, we could spray 1.5 inches thick on top of a sheetrock ceiling. After 4 hours, when it cures, you could walk on top of it without fear of going through. I've done it plenty of times, to where I would not walk on a drywall ceiling without spray foam. I don't recommend walking on a drywall ceiling, period. But you can do it once the foam is applied properly. So the strength it's going to add is it's going to be awesome, and it adds about 2 pounds per square foot. And look, that's a cube, 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. 2 pounds is not a lot, because I'm not going to have 1 foot thick blocks here. I'm only going to have 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick foam. So I'm estimating my total weight. I might be 30 or 40 pounds of foam in here. Yep, even if I got 100 pounds of foam, it's all good. It's going to handle it just fine. But yeah, I just figured while I had the time, waiting for stuff to dry, I'd make a little video showing my structure more in detail and explain why I chose the materials I chose and the methods I chose. Would I have liked to go on all aluminum? Yes, I would have. But at the end of the day, I'm putting it all on top of a wood structure on plastic barrels. So is it really feasible to spend $4,000 for an aluminum structure when all this is lumber and barrels? I mean, if you want to build one out of aluminum, spend all that money, go ahead. I'm happy for you. It's a very, very nice setup that's going to last a long time. The purpose of this boat is just to get me and my family out in the water and enjoy ourselves, whether that lasts us 2 years or lasts us 20 years. It's going to be great. And honestly, I'm probably building this one and going to sell it. Eventually, I want to do what's called the Great Loop, and this would not be a good Great Loop boat. One is going to sit low to the water. It's going to be very slow and inefficient, a lot of drag. Even with a small motor, it's going to be fuel efficient, but it's going to be very inefficient to handle currents, a heavy current. I do have another boat planned for the Great Loop. It was going to be that sailboat right there, but behind that sailboat is another boat. The sailboat is a 1979 O'Day 25. It only has about 5'5" headroom max. But the interior is pretty spacious besides the headroom. That was going to be my little houseboat. But behind that one way back there, that is the bows pointing high in the air. That is a 22 foot hull with a 2 foot fantail. So the paperwork says it's 24 foot by 8. It's a V bottom. It's called a Lafitte skiff. Lafitte skiffs can handle a lot of waves. They're very stable. It's a planing hull. It's not a displacement hull like a sailboat. The sailboat will give me the best efficiency. But the planing hull, I don't plan on getting it on plane, but it's just really nice hull shape, nice flare, V bottom. I do have a 20 horse M25 Kubota. Well, it's a universal M25, which is a Kubota diesel with a 2-to-1 clutch. I need to find a shaft and a wheel. It's got a stuck valve in the engine. It runs, but it only runs on 2 cylinders. But I did pick up a whole nother parts engine for dirt cheap, like $100. It was missing the exhaust and the intake and the starter, but the engine has plenty of compression. It's the same head. It's a newer engine, but Kubota made that same engine for I think 40 years. It's just different color paint, and one's a marine version, one's not a marine. I think I'm gonna get that engine running, fixed up, and put it in one of them boats, either the sailboat or the skiff. So if I do sell this, that's what my funds are going to, build another boat. Uh, I mean, who knows? I may enjoy this one so much I may not want to sell it. But I mean, for the money I got invested, if I factor in my time, it's going to be an expensive build, but it's still cheaper than anything else you can build. I thought about going the route of, like everyone else, buy a used pontoon, add another pontoon to it. The problem I have with that down here, say a 20-foot pontoon with 19-inch diameter pontoons, they sell for $2,500 down here with papers. The deck's gonna be rotten. Everything above deck's gonna be bad. It's all gonna have to be stripped down, torn apart. So you're paying for 2 pontoons and a frame, $2,500. And then I have to source another pontoon, attach the third pontoon, modify the trailer to make it a tri-toon, and then I'm still 3 19-inch diameter pontoons for $2,500 plus the price of the pontoon. So I mean, my main thinking, I would have to invest $4,000 in a hull, an aluminum pontoon hull, to get something decent to work with. And it's still going to have less buoyancy than what I've built here because of the fact that these are 23.5-inch diameter pontoons versus 19s. And to get a big pontoon, the 24 to 25-inch diameter pontoons are tri-toons. In my area, that's $4,000 to $5,000 for a hull, used with papers and a bad deck, and probably no engine. So at that point, I would have been $5,000 invested in just a hull that would do the same equivalent job this hull I built will do. But the pontoon will be more efficient because there's no seams. I have gaps between every barrel. If you haven't seen my other videos and build, this is just barrels. Still got to come back, pressure wash and clean the barnacles I left in the water. But this is three pontoons of barrels. My pontoons are actually 20 foot long. I added a fantail on the deck to conceal my old style cable steering, and that's where the 22 comes in. I think it's 22 foot 6. I did get it registered, and we had to measure it out. But it's a nice project, but there is a lot of drag due to the design of the barrels. One thing I am going to do, I do have to remove these barrels. I'm going to seal the caps. I didn't seal the caps on these barrels when I built this one. I wasn't expecting it to work so well, and I wasn't planning on getting a max draft. The max draft is going to be at 12 inches, which is about where these holes are. But anyway, the drag issue, water, all this is drag. Water piles up in there between every barrel. I get 6 miles an hour. Without the cabin, I was getting 6 miles an hour out of this little 9.8 Nissan. So what I plan on doing, I'm going to get more barrels. I'm going to cut straps that are 18 inches wide, and it's going to cover this gap completely to where I'm only going to have this lip to worry about drag instead of water rolling through these curves and trying to backfill between the barrels. That's one of the things I'm going to do. I did eliminate some drag on the bow. I made 3 matching nose cones. Hard to see it in my tarp, but let's even see the center one maybe. I have 3 matching, it's called diverters, and as you can see, it's got holes in it. They do fill with water. When you put it in the water, it fills up, which it doesn't really affect anything weight wise. It just I didn't want to seal it. It didn't pay to seal it. Its only job is to divert water from dragging the front of a flat barrel. That would be a lot of resistance. So diverters are doing their job. So yeah, that's where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. Today I'm going to fill in all the screw holes on both sides, do the sanding. I'm going to complete the front roof. I'm going to try my best to complete the front roof. And then if I got time today, I'm going to wrap the back in canvas and try poor man's fiberglass for the first time. This has not been sanded yet. This has. You can see the difference in the texture. It feels a lot better. And again, I'm waiting for my filler to dry. I went with the drywall filler because I'm just covering screw holes and gaps. Even if I use a wood filler, wood glue doesn't bond very well to wood filler or drywall filler. So my filling is going to be minimal. It's just covering screw holes and big gaps, just so you don't see any defects or flaws through my canvas. This right here is going to be a big strip of wood filler. Sometimes when you buy the plywood, the edges are delaminated, and when you screw in, it just peels it off. I had an area on the roof that done that as well. But yeah, I'm just gonna be filling screw holes. That's the only spots with filler. So I'm not concerned about structural weakness. I did have to fill a bunch of knot holes right here. These are treated 2x4s, not treated. Everything touching the deck is treated. All my main 2x4s for the roof is treated. Those runners are treated. Everything's treated except for the wall studs and the plywood. So it's going to get that coating of poor man's fiberglass. It's going to waterproof the exterior, and the interior is not going to be waterproof. It will be covered in closed cell spray foam, which adds a kind of a waterproof barrier, but it will not be waterproof. If I get water in my walls, like I said, I've got issues, you know. Even if I use treated wood, if I get water on my walls, I've got issues. To do these studs and treat it, the weight, if I would have cut down treated 2x4s, I think I did one as a test. In fact, I had to cut down treated regular 2x4s to the same width for my door seals. And when I cut one down, I weighed it. I was at 9 pounds for 2.5 inches wide by 8 foot long. It was 9 pounds. So that would have put me way overweight, a lot overweight. And I've also done it here. I cut these treated 2x4s down to the same size as these mobile home studs, and they're just heavy. The heaviest piece of lumber on here is this 2x4. It's a 16-foot 2x4. My roof is 18 foot, so when I got to the back, I had to add a splice. This 2x4 alone weighs about 30 pounds. That's my heaviest piece of lumber I put up here. So I've got a 30-pound piece here, maybe 8 pounds, 8 pounds, and this is deck boards. The deck boards themselves weighed, I think, 24 pounds. I wound up cutting the deck boards in half to where I was able to use one deck board to do both braces for the ceiling to make my arch. And this is also deck board. I mean, the weight sounds like a lot. When you put it all together, it's a lot of weight, but it's not as heavy as what you guys are thinking. As I was planning to build with wood, I started weighing the wood, and I went to my metal yard, and I brought a scale with me, and I started weighing pieces of metal and aluminum, and I started searching online for charts. You know, what does aluminum weigh versus thin galvanized steel tubing? And no matter which option I went with, I ended up with almost the same amount of overall weight for the materials I needed. So it was just so easy to pick wood over metal. One, because of the price. Like I stated, aluminum, to build this in aluminum, I'm looking at almost $4,000, and that's not including the fabrication, the means to weld it, which I do have aluminum welding set up. But to weld aluminum, it requires almost zero wind, or you have to be inside of a shop, and I don't have that option. And to build out a galvanized, I believe the cost was about $3 grand to build the framing out of galvanized tubing, and then and that would have been covered with plywood as well. To cover it in tin, the weight of the tin was just far too heavy. Now I could have used the really thin corrugated tin, the galvanized one. Those are pretty light. I could have used that and spray foamed it. It would have been fine. I just thought that would have been ugly looking, having all tin walls. It wasn't the look I was going for. But no matter what, it still would have cost more than the wood structure, and would have been more weight than the wood structure. Slightly more weight. I want to say 400 or 500 pounds heavier going with metal. And the aluminum, I think, was maybe 200 pounds heavier going with the aluminum. So I'm good. That's where I stand. Y'all know how I feel about it and why I chose what I chose. If I was worried about rot, I would not be doing this project. If I don't waterproof the outside, then yes, I have a problem. If you just paint over it, it'll probably waterproof for a couple months, maybe a year. But eventually water's going to infiltrate. If you don't know what poor man's fiberglass is, look it up, man. There's plenty of videos of a guy that built a little teardrop camper, a homemade camper. It was his first time doing it. He didn't really know what he was doing. He didn't do things the correct way, but still, 3 years later, he didn't wrap his seams, so water was coming in through his floor gap as he's pulling down the highway. So let's say that's the tongue of the trailer. If this was his little trailer, water from the highway would get under the floor between his walls, and it rotted his floor. So after, I want to say 5 years of him owning it, his floor started getting soft, so he decided to tear it apart. And he ripped all that poor man's fiberglass off of that camper, of the shell, and there was not one single spot on there that was compromised with water. All his plywood still looked nice and new, no water intrusion. And that was one of the videos that convinced me to go with poor man's fiberglass. And it's a great cheap product. It just uses wood glue, canvas, and paint. And it's very solid. It performs a waterproof outer shell coating. And I will be using Titebond 3, to where if you do research on poor man's fiberglass, they tell you to use Titebond 2, not Titebond 3. Titebond 2 is not a waterproof glue. It has a water resistance, I believe, of either 2 or 1. I don't know anything about the water resistance chart, but if you Google it, the Titebond 3 is 100% waterproof. After it cures, you can leave it submerged in water and the glue will not soften or come apart, where Titebond 2 and other wood glues come apart after being submerged in water for a period of time. A lot of people say Titebond 3 does not stick to itself. That's why they wouldn't use it, because there's 2 methods to do poor man's fiberglass. There's a method I'm using and the method I'm not going to be using. The method I'm going to use, I'll coat the wood with wood glue, lay on my canvas, and just let it dry. And then I'm coming back and painting the canvas. The paint soaks into the cotton, and that's what adds the strength and the waterproof barrier. And the glue is going to help with that waterproof barrier. The second way is you apply the glue, apply the canvas, and you keep applying more layer of glue until the canvas is saturated and it's all wood glue. You can then sand it and then paint it. That gives you a very hard shell. But you're relying on the glue for your strength and your waterproof barrier, which will probably work out good with Titebond 3, but I'm not going that route. That means your paint could get scratched and chipped easily because it's not bonded to the cotton. I don't know if you ever got paint on your cotton shirt and try to peel it off after it dries. That paint is into the fibers. It works pretty much like fabric dye. That paint is permanent on that piece of fabric, to where if you paint over wood glue, it can be scratched off and peeled off. I'm going to be painting straight onto my canvas, let my canvas soak it up. I guess my first coat of paint, I'm going to thin it with 25% water to where it can really soak through that canvas, and I'll probably have to put 4 or 5 coats. There's plenty of videos and torture tests and durability tests on poor man's fiberglass. Like I said, if you don't know what it is, look it up. It's a great system, and it's a lot cheaper than regular fiberglass because, as stated, the price of fiberglass is outrageous right now. I've got some fiberglass work I need to do in my boats. I've got my little 17-foot day sailor that was supposed to become a little cabin cruiser, but the price of fiberglass is just far too high. Same thing with my 24-foot skiff back there. That skiff is going to take at least 15 gallons of fiberglass to put a new floor in it, and then it still doesn't have a cabin. And at $190 a bucket, 15 gallons, it adds up quick to do fiberglass work. So that was another reason why I chose what I chose. I'm going with the poor man's fiberglass version. versus the fiberglass. That's it. I rambled long enough. This is probably one of my longest videos I've made in a long time. If you made it this far, congratulations to you. I appreciate y'all views, y'all input. I mean, even negative comments, I can appreciate it. You know, you have an opinion and you have concerns. Maybe you're seeing something that I'm not, and so sometimes people have valid points. You know, but it's not gonna talk me out of doing what I'm doing. It's like on Facebook, they expect me just to give up and stop building because it's not gonna work. Like, how can you have that mentality? You know, how are things ever figured out and done if you have if that's how you are in life? Or just give up. You're wasting your time. You know, that's not how I operate. I say I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I said from the start when I built this, I was making a houseboat, and here I am. I'm doing it. Thank y'all. See y'all on the next one.